Lion's mane mushroom, the new superfood that can supposedly treat everything from memory issues to ADHD. But is there any actual science to back this up, or is this another version of a snake oil supplement? So people are either like eating it as a daily thing. So I've seen videos like this where they're talking about how they're eating this for their food instead of taking a daily dose of Adderall. And there's also videos saying that it's been like heavily researched. So let's start with the first claim that a lot of people make, that this is a great drug for ADHD. So you can use it to take away your daily stimulant that you're using. There's nothing here. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. I was desperate for some studies. So I started with kind of like the very basic, is this helpful for ADHD? Are there any human trials that say this is helpful for ADHD? And there were none. And so then I was like, rats? Maybe there's a rat study somewhere out there. And then I looked into rat studies and I got excited because I found a rat study. And then I realized the rat study was just some undergraduate research journal where they typed up a proposal of what they would like to do, but then seemingly never did because there's no other publication after that. So no rat studies either. So no human, no rat. And then what about the cellular? Well, there is something on a cellular level that says like, oh, it hits the same targets as you might expect for things like memory and attention, but that's about it. So any claims about ADHD are not supported at all. So what about other disorders? Well, I'll start with things like Alzheimer's and mild cognitive impairment. There was one study looking at 50 to 80-year-old Japanese people, about 30 of them, and looking to see if the type of mushrooms, the lion's mane mushroom, would actually decrease their cognitive impairment symptoms. What they found was that, yeah, after 8 weeks, after 16 weeks, they did see a decrease in cognitive symptoms. But then when you stop taking the supplement, these effects went away. And there was one other study on cognitive impairment where they're looking at people with early Alzheimer's. So basically not a full-blown version of the disease, but basically just like the early stages of it. And they found that it could work to help decrease some of those symptoms too. So like maybe it can't hurt for things like Alzheimer's and mild cognitive impairment, because honestly, we don't have much of anything that works really well to treat Alzheimer's. Like, unfortunately, dementia is just a terrible diagnosis to get because you basically just start degenerating and you do it more and more and more, and we don't have a way to really stop it. It's genuinely heartbreaking. Like, it doesn't seem like this could hurt to try because supposedly it is relatively safe, but we don't have a ton of great evidence there. Now, we have even less for things like autism spectrum disorder, and let me tell you about the one study that was done in this. So I was automatically worried about the study because I get to the methods section and it's like, yeah, our facility doesn't really do an ethics committee, but we promise we try to live up to the best ethical standards that we could. Like, your facility doesn't do ethics? What? And then they proceeded to lay out their research, which, by the way, this was published in 2026, so that should tell you something. So here's what they did. They gave, quote, high-functioning autistic and Asperger's children, basically this drug, this supplement, this proprietary supplement, so they got it from some sort of manufacturer somewhere. They gave them this supplement for a year, and that's what they did. There was really no control group. I mean, there technically was one. There was a control group in which they just looked at normal children in terms of development, and that was their control group. They were not given a placebo. The neurotypical children were also not given the supplement. And then they brought them in at 6 months and a year later to just give them an EEG. And that was basically what they found. And they're like, yeah, there were some brain changes after this EEG. And so after 6 months and a year, like, their brain had changed somewhat. And so we think that's due to the mushrooms. There was no control group. And also, these were like 4 to 7 year old children. Yeah, their brains are going to change in a year. Have you ever met a child? They're different from like day to day. And then when asked about like the doses that they used to make sure that they were safe, they said, this mushroom is found practically everywhere and it's been found to be safe. And that was it. Like, yeah, you should be happy that you don't actually have an ethics committee at your university, because that would have never gone through any ethics committees. Let's give random doses of this mushroom to children and then just see what it does, but we can't actually see what it does because we don't have a group to distinguish them from. So that's basically what we have. And when we ask the question of, does it actually just improve things like memory and attention, which is part of this claim, we don't even have good evidence on that. Like, there's this one study that was a good double-blind placebo-controlled study. So basically what they were doing is the experimenters did not know which drug they were giving someone. So it was either a placebo or the supplement, but even the researchers didn't know which ones they were giving until the very end of the study, which is the best type of study out there. And what they found was that a single dose of this mushroom did seem to help with how fast you were in this one cognitive task, but basically nothing else. And repeated doses didn't do anything later on. So even when it comes to like cognitive testing, just in general, we don't have a lot of evidence that this even helps with memory and attention. We have a ton of evidence that says this should help. Like theoretically, it should be there, but we have very little evidence that says that it does help. Like it is actually doing something. We have those results. And the part that worries me the most with this is that most of this research is on supplements where they actually can test and know what's in them. And in the United States, our supplement industry is wildly unregulated. And you'll hear me talk about this all the time. So basically what happens is that supplement makers can claim that their drug does all sorts of things as long as they're not lying and as long as they're not claiming that it's actually helping with something like an actual disorder. So you can say that it helps with memory and focus, and unless somebody sues you, you're pretty much fine, but you can't say that it helps with ADHD. And there's no actual need to show that what's in there is actually what it says it is supposed to be. So we do not guarantee that the lion's mane mushroom and the lion's mane mushroom supplements are actually lion's mane mushrooms. So yeah, supplement manufacturers don't really have any real rules or regulations, and they can kind of claim whatever they want to. And so even if lion's mane mushroom does something, it doesn't necessarily mean that what you're getting in your little bottle is actually lion's mane. Like, have you looked at the names of supplement manufacturers recently? You should not be trusting them. So they say things like live conscious. What is the alternate of that? Live unconsciously? Or I love health. Who doesn't love health? They are so vague, they're not actually telling you anything. So probably don't trust those companies. And probably we should be doing more research before you decide that this is a thing that you're going to be taking for months and months that supposedly will help treat your ADHD instead of an actual medication that has to have its safety and efficacy verified. I get the problems with Big Pharma, but I do not understand why we've suddenly decided that we should trust supplement companies even more, even though they have less rules and regulations compared to those companies. And lion's mane specifically, I mean, there's potential there, but there's no actual evidence there.